القائمة الأولى سائرون.
The first election in Iraq since the defeat of Daesh was expected to turn a new chapter for the country. It did, but not in the way the United States expected. The election produced a winner in the anti-U.S. Sadrist movement, where the Saeroon Alliance, led by Muqtada al-Sadr, won 54 of the 328 seats in the parliament. The election was in fact a forum for the Iraqi people to voice their concerns over the future of the country.
Well, the number one take-home from the Iraqi is how badly Abadi has done. Now, he's been beaten into third place. He was the US preferred candidate. So the one take-home I'd say is that if you're backed by the United States, it's like the kiss of death to your political prospects in Iraq now. Political suicide, really, for anybody that gets backed by the United States or by the West. Oh, we want you to vote for this, everybody. It looks as if now that is your way of actually failing at the elections. So anybody who's standing, I think, in the future is going to have to distance themselves from the United States or suffer in the polls.
The election also had a message for the Iraqi officials, a warning.
The Iraqi people have had enough of interference or financial influence through different parties. They want an end to that. They do not want a government that relies on outside financial influence to rule them, because they believe that this is one of the main sources of the crises that they have been living through since 2003.
Winning the largest number of seats does not automatically make Sadr the kingmaker, as his coalition didn't win the decisive number of votes. Parties will have to form a bloc large enough for the parliamentary majority necessary to nominate a candidate for premiership. The government should be formed within 90 days of the official results, but negotiations are expected to go on for months.
Because of the low turnout and because of the different factions who have won significant numbers of seats. So any winning coalition or alliance would really have to, make a bigger alliance to satisfy the other parties involved, to come up with a government that can represent all winning factions and ultimately all Iraqis.
It is not clear if the competing camps can put aside their differences and ultimately form the much-needed government in Iraq, as there are areas they cannot see eye to eye, among them the country's ties with the U.S., Iran, and new players such as Saudi Arabia.
The Iran issue is key, and if any of these groups in Iran are really sensible, they will realize that the only people really opposing U.S. policy and Israeli policy and Saudi policy in the Middle East are the Iranians. So I hope very much to see these various politicians realize that any kind of opposition to Iran within Iraq is just playing into Americans' hands.
That said, there are some common grounds that can bring the rivals together, things that have direct impacts on the Iraqis' daily lives.
Whatever the case is, these two factions should think or focus on serving the poor people of Iraq, because the poor people of Iraq are now of course, they were and are still the majority of the country. Another is to fight corruption, which has proved to be the biggest threat to Iraq, since Daesh and since the fall of Daesh. And also to continue the fight and struggle and to defeat terrorism, because there are still terrorists in Iraq.
The election results were a wake-up call for whoever going to steer the country in the years to come. Addressing people's concerns can be a surefire recipe for future success.